Okay, let's get into this. We're looking at a source today that, well, it doesn't pull any punches, kicks right off with a pretty sharp question for anyone in the cloud data world.
Yeah, I saw that. Is your data transformation strategy as cloud native as your data warehouse?
Exactly. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does, because you might be, all in on Snowflake or BigQuery or Redshift, these amazing modern cloud warehouses.
Right. Using the latest tech there.
But, and this is the catch, if the way you're actually getting data ready for those warehouses, the transformation part, if that's still using, say, older ETL methods on separate system,
Then you're probably missing out.
that's the implication.
Yeah.
Performance, scalability, maybe even cost savings. You could be leaving stuff on the table.
And this source immediately points towards a specific kind of tool designed for this exact problem. It introduces Matillion.
hmm Pitches it as something built specifically to get that uh, clean, timely, transformed data right into your cloud warehouse engine.
So built for the cloud warehouse, not just, adapted to it.
That seems to be the core idea. A cloud-native ETL, or maybe more accurately, ELT platform.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then is to explore what this source says about Matillion. What is it, fundamentally? How's it work?
And, importantly for you listening, is this the kind of thing that might fit your stack, your team, the challenges you're facing?
Right, let's unpack it. So the source emphasizes it's cloud native from the start, built for the cloud.
Yes. And the key technical piece, the heart of it, is what they call its push-down ELT architecture.
Push down. Okay, we hear that term. What does that actually mean compared to like traditional ETL? Why is that a big deal?
Right. Okay. So think traditional ETL. Extract data, pull it to a completely separate server, your ETL server.
Yeah.
That server does all the heavy lifting, the joins, the cleaning, the logic. Then you load the results into your warehouse.
So the work happens outside the warehouse.
Exactly. That ETL server has its own limitations, its own compute you have to manage and scale. Now, Matillion's push-down approach flips that a bit. It's ELT extract, load, then transform. So you extract the data, and you load it fairly quickly into a staging area inside your cloud data warehouse, like Snowflake or BigQuery.
Ah, okay. So the data's already in the target system, just maybe in a raw-ish state.
Precisely. And then the transformation, the T, happens. But Matillion doesn't do the processing itself. Instead, it generates the SQL code needed for your transformations,
Uh-huh.
complex SQL potentially, and it pushes that code down into your cloud data warehouse to run there.
So the actual compute, the processing power is coming from Snowflake itself or BigQuery or whatever you're using.
Exactly. Matillion is essentially orchestrating and generating the instructions, but your powerful, scalable cloud warehouse is doing the actual work. That's why the source says it uses the full power of your existing compute, scalable, fast, and cost-effective.
Right, you're leveraging the engine you've already got, which is designed for huge data sets.
Spot on. You're not paying for and managing a separate compute layer just for transformations. You use the elastic power of the warehouse.
That seems like a really fundamental difference. No moving data out, transforming, moving back in, just load once, then transform in place.
Yeah, and the benefits are potentially significant. Speed, because those warehouses are built for parallel processing.
Yeah.
Cost, because you're consolidating compute. Maybe even simpler, security and governance, less data movement.
Makes sense. Running the job on the fastest track available. Now, the source also mentions the user experience, a user-friendly visual job designer. That sounds appealing compared to just coding everything.
It definitely is a big part of the appeal. You drag and drop components, connect them, visualize the flow of data. It can make building pipelines, especially complex ones, much more intuitive initially.
So you can actually see the logic laid out?
Yeah, a visual canvas.
Yeah.
But, and this is crucial, the source makes a point of saying under the hood, it's executing some serious SQL.
Ah, so it's not like a no-code magic wand?
Not at all. The
Okay.
visual blocks directly translate into SQL commands that run in your warehouse. Matillion generates that SQL. So while the visual tool helps design and orchestrate, you or your team really need to understand SQL to, optimize things, debug when something goes wrong inside the warehouse execution.
You need to understand what the visual design is actually telling the database to do.
Precisely. That's why the source calls picking Matillion a strategic decision. It's not just the tool. It's about aligning with your cloud architecture and needing a specific skill set.
Which leads right into, who is this actually for? Given that mixed visual design but deep SQL running underneath, what kind of setup is the best fit?
The source gives a few pointers. First, organizations that are really cloud native, already heavily invested in Snowflake, BigQuery, Synapse, that kind of platform.
Makes sense. Skill for them.
Second, if you need complex transformations at scale, if you're doing more than just basic data moves, if you have intricate business logic, lots of sources, big volumes.
So heavy-duty data wrangling.
Right. And third, critically, if your team is comfortable with SQL-based logic and performance tuning.
Because that's the engine running things.
Exactly. You need people who can look at the SQL Matillion generates or anticipate how the visual job will perform on your specific warehouse and tweak things for efficiency, understand execution plans, database nuances.
So it's not just about knowing the Matillion interface.
Not for getting the most out of it, no. The source says it works especially well for high-volume, high-complexity workloads. That's where the pushdown really pays off.
Okay, so if you tick those boxes, cloud native, complex needs, SQL savvy team, what are the claimed benefits?
Well, the source mentions helping teams move faster, partly due to the visual designer speeding up initial builds, automating data flows, orchestration, and the big one we talked about, optimize cloud spend by using the warehouse compute you already have.
Avoiding that separate ETL server cost and management.
Right.
It really sounds like the people are key to making this work well. It's not just software.
The source heavily emphasizes this. It explicitly talks about needing engineers who know how to build efficient Matillion jobs, understand the warehouse nuances, and troubleshoot proactively.
So you need both the visual design skill and that deep SQL warehouse knowledge.
Yes. That blend is what, according to the source, turns Matillion from a tool into a real business asset. Without both, you might build stuff that works, but maybe it's slow or expensive or breaks easily.
That combination of skills sounds pretty valuable these days. Any mention of career impact.
Yeah, it does note that specializing here, especially combined with cloud data warehouse skills, opens up opportunities in cloud engineering, analytics engineering, data platform roles. Basically, as this modern stack becomes more common, people who can bridge the visual tool and the underlying SQL execution are in demand.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen Matillion presented as this cloud-native ELT tool.
Built around that core idea of pushdown, making your powerful cloud warehouse do the transformation work.
And the decision isn't just technical, it's about whether your org is truly cloud-focused, has those complex needs.
And maybe most importantly, whether your team has or can develop that specific blend of skills, visual tool proficiency, and deep SQL and warehouse expertise.
It's an alignment thing. Tool, architecture, people. Getting that right is framed as a critical part of your cloud data journey.
Yeah, it really highlights that just having the cloud warehouse isn't enough. How you feed it efficiently is just as vital.
So the final thought to leave you, the listener, with drawing from this source is this. Take a hard look at your setup. Is your transformation process acting like a bottleneck on your cloud warehouse?
And does your team truly possess that specific mix of visual design ability and deep down SQL mastery needed to really leverage these modern push-down tools effectively? Something to mull over.